Have you ever thought just how boring or ridiculous news commentary is today? Welcome to the Real Jacks Podcast with Jim and Larry. The Real Jacks Podcast. From crime and politics to entertainment, you can expect something different. Now, let's get real, Jacks.
Real Jacks with Jim and Larry is brought to you by
Extreme Wings, 4 convenient locations, family sports restaurant and grill, more than just wings. Tremendous Barbecue, open since 2007, 8927 Hurlong Road, open 11 to 8, Tuesday through Saturday, and Sunday 11 to 3. Full barbecue menu, everything homemade, they cater anything, and they love first responders. Advanced Window Tint, 5024 Sunbeam Road, over 26 years experience. 3M Platinum Dealer, highest level of 3M dealer around. They tint vehicles, homes, and businesses. Secure One Protection Services, number one choice for protection since 1986. 356-1111. D-Way Towing, 100 South Jackson Avenue. Phone number is 904-356-3929. They take care of all your towing needs. See our friend Doug Dixon. Norman Brewer for Jacksonville District 11 City Council. We need fighters that will truly represent us on the City Council. Norman Brewer is that guy. He's a constitutional conservative, former law enforcement officer, successful businessman. Norm will call it like he sees it, and you will have no better advocate on the council.
Hey, welcome back to Real Jacks with Jim, Larry, and Crawfish. No Larry today, but we've got special guest, Nahshon Nix, candidate for District 7 City Council. Good to have you.
Thank you, and it's an honor and a pleasure to be here with you today.
You know, usually we start with a list of questions. Just tell us about you, who you are, and why you're running.
Yeah,
start with your background, where you came from.
Bio, because I read some of your bio, and we have some things in common, and but it was a really interesting bio.
Yeah, well,
and I just got to mention, it's probably the best dressed man we've had.
Oh, by far
on the air, by far.
By far.
So you know.
So I was born in Syracuse, New York. Been in Jacksonville for roughly 30 years, off and on, because I had like a little small stint where I went to high school in a little town called Folkestone, Georgia, which is a little north of Jacksonville.
Been there.
Yeah, most people say that's where I went to get married. Yeah. You know, they I don't know why, but they said that's typically the response I get. Folkestone, that's where I went and got married. But I left New York, came to Jacksonville, lived in the Arlington area for a few years.
How old were you when you?
9 years old.
Okay, so did you go to Parker?
Actually, I went to Merrill Road Elementary School. And an interesting fact about Merrill Road Elementary School, shout out to Miss Tona Pillin. In 5th grade, I couldn't read. Miss Pillin called a parent-teacher conference and made my mother aware that she could not pass me because she'll be doing me a disservice.
Good for her. Yeah.
And I broke down crying, and she said, listen, I can't do it. You're not ready. So one of the things that I told her was, Miss Pillin, you said where there's a will, there's a way. So she committed to teaching and tutoring me in reading.
Took a personal interest in you.
After school, every single day until I was reading on a 6th grade reading level.
Great lady.
So I'm extremely indebted to her, and that's one of my passions is in education and reading. A lot of times you will hear that there's a public school to prison pipeline, and looking at it from an analytical perspective is actually a literacy to prison pipeline. And I don't know whether it's the critical thinking or the analytical thinking that comes from the comprehension of reading, but there's a correlation there from like 3rd grade reading levels, 4th grade reading levels, and prison growth projections.
It's good that you know that.
Yes.
Yeah. Sounds like you've done some study on it and some research.
Yes. My back.
And I agree with you on that. Yeah, that's a very important age to capture children, and if they may not be getting the proper education, well, what else are they going to do? They're going to probably let's go hang out with my buddies, let's go gangbang, or let's go get in trouble.
Yes, and speaking of that, I run a nonprofit called the First Coast Leadership Foundation here in Jacksonville. It's in the urban core off of Pearl and 11th Street here in Jacksonville. And basically our mission is to shift our city streets from battlegrounds to playgrounds. And we have a two-pronged approach from mentoring youth ages 5 to 18, and then from civic engagement, making sure that we have an educated citizenry. So we teach, well, I personally use the book Who Moved My Cheese for teens as a book read for young males on Mondays. So we do a book study, and I'm actually reading the book, but they're reading with me. And then they say that true learning comes through action and reflection.
Yeah, that's some serious community engagement right there at the right level.
Oh, yes.
Yeah. That's critical, because too many people grow up and move on and leave that community behind them. And don't they've got some great things they could bring back, and they don't, and they leave everybody to kind of fend for themselves. It's the people that come back and re-engage back into the community and go, I was 9, I couldn't read, I've gone off, I've come back, this is me now, I'm here to help y'all. We need more of that. A lot more of that. And tell us about District 7. What all does that encompass? What area?
All right, I'm going to put this out there. District 7 is the biggest business district in our city. I'm going to say that one more time. District 7 is the biggest business district in the city of Jacksonville.
So it's downtown.
Downtown, and when you look at the city assets, everything with the letter J is in District 7. So when you look at JEA, which is the Electric Authority, when you look at JTA, which is the Transportation Authority, when you look at JIA, which is the International Airport, Jacksport, Jacksonville Zoo, Jacksonville Jaguars, and if you want to go to jail, JSO.
It's a big business too.
It is a big business.
Yeah, they get a big part of the city budget.
Yes.
Well, that's interesting. Okay.
Yeah.
What made you want to run for District 7 to be a candidate? How do you feel that? I like you already, just from some of the things you said, but what makes you better qualified, you think,
All right.
to take this seat over some of your, and I don't like to call them opponents, I like to call them competitors.
Okay. All right. And if you do that, right?
Everybody's compete for that seat.
Correct. Well, number one, I live in a district.
To me, that's the best reason right there.
Good point. No, that's number one.
Because now you're involved in the community and you got a personal interest in it.
Yes, and I've been living in a district nearly 20 years.
Okay.
And looking at my lived experience, because I believe in servant leadership, right? And when you look at servant leadership, Crawfish, you got folks who look at top-down leadership. That's like your president of the United States. Before something is actually implemented on the local level, you're looking at the House, the Senate, then you're looking at the governor, state legislators. But when you look at a city council person, that's somebody that is boots on the ground. And I've been boots on the ground my entire adult life in some of our most severe communities in the urban core. Case in point, I graduated from Edward Waters. When I was going to school there, they were like, yeah, over here is Afghanistan, and then over there is Pakistan, because of all the shootings and murders that were happening in that particular sector. And then when you look at Myrtle Avenue, what they call like Durkeeville area.
I used to, as a police officer, reserve police officer, I was in Durkeeville all the time.
And
knew a lot of people over there. Went to a lot of calls in there with the people I worked with. Very familiar with that area.
And then it's almost an image of, it used to be called Washington Heights Apartments. It's now called Callaway Cove. And when I say serve as in helping people becoming self-sustaining. Helping people build that dignity and determination.
Less relying on government.
Yes.
Maybe, right.
And then they become assets to the community.
Absolutely.
And they become stakeholders, and I'm very big on that.
So a big vested interest in the community, become stakeholders.
Yes.
Yeah.
And
So they're building pride in the community. So, right.
And now I did have to get training on this. The term that they use is social capital enterprise. And with that, it's like a market-based management through the Stand Together Foundation. I did like a extensive training on different leadership to see how communities that were distressed became self-sustaining. And I was in Austin, Texas a couple weeks ago, and they have a tiny home community. With District 7, people talk about our displaced citizens. I don't like to call them homeless because I believe everybody has a home. We just don't know where it is yet. And with that, the tiny home, everybody within that particular community has to pay some type of rent. Nobody stays there rent-free. There is no free lunch. So if you don't receive any type of SSI or Social Security disability, then you get plugged into workforce development. And if you don't want workforce development, then you go back to school. So it continues to build that dignity and determination.
Well, making a productive people too. So they're not just sitting around, and I'll use this phrase, sucking off the government. They're productive, and they're becoming productive citizens in one way or the other. Absolutely.
And those type of models, what you call public-private partnerships, where it's not just government, it's other entities that have a vested interest in that success of that community. And with District 7, we have kind of like an overwhelming service-dependent communities throughout downtown. And it's going to be a hard shift, because if we want people to come to Jacksonville, enjoy our riverfront, I mean, I want people to come to Duval outside of just Jaguar games. I want them to turn a one-day trip into a 5-day trip, as if you were going to
Disney World.
Yeah, like you're going to Disney World. Like you don't go to Disney World for no one day.
It's like you go to Disney World.
Yeah. I want you to enjoy the north side. I want you to enjoy the riverfront. I want you to enjoy Springfield. I want you to enjoy our beachfront. Like there's.
Well, we got to get a handle on crime. We had a recent guest in here running for sheriff, and that was a big topic. And crime is an issue. And so, have you had any thoughts on how you can help influence reducing crime, other than, which is a great plan already, what you've talked about? You know, the community engagement, involvement, but any other thoughts on overall as a city of Jacksonville? Because crime's pervasive now. It's not in the lower socioeconomic areas. It's violent crime is popping up where there's $2-3 million homes blocks from there. It's popping up everywhere.
All right. And now, okay, I am going to have to say there is a slight lean when it comes to violent crime on the north side of Jacksonville. So that type of crime, I got to differentiate it, because there's a difference between a murder and a car accident. You understand?
Yeah. Sure.
All right.
Yeah.
And then
or a property crime.
So running the nonprofit and the mentoring aspect, my stepfather is brilliant. He said, son, it's better to prefix than it is a suffix, because if you fix it in the beginning, you don't have to fix it in the end. Yeah. So
proactive. Just be proactive. Yeah.
So being proactive, and I'm not sure if you're from Jacksonville originally. Are you from Jacksonville?
My whole life.
So you were probably heard of the Redcap Program. The Redcap Program was something that the city of Jacksonville did years back.
I haven't heard that in a long time. Explain to people what that is.
Redcap Program was where youth and teens would be able to get summer jobs to put some money in their pocket, so that way if their parents couldn't afford to buy them new school clothes or school supplies, they had a little sense of dignity and pride, like, hey, I got some change in my pocket. And you got some work experience. I get grown men that come to me today whenever I go speak at events, churches, clubs. I say, how many of you all remember the Redcap Program? That's how I got my first job. That's where I retired from the power plant. That's how I retired from the water treatment plant. That was where, they didn't just take that for a summer job. That ended up becoming a career. So when I look at it from a preventative measure, imagine if you took a 12-year-old, a 13-year-old, a 14-year-old, and they were able to get workforce development at 12, 13, and 14, and 15. So now what we're looking at is, instead of us saying, what do you want to be when you grow up? What are you doing now?
Yeah.
let's shift.
They're already on the path.
They're already on that path, and I think that's just one aspect of it, and that also ties into those public-private partnerships. We got to be able to build those relationships to see how we can get the business community and build that social capital, build that social equity, and let folks know that their voice, and they matter. They matter in the city as a whole. Another thing that I want to look at pertaining to the north side in the district that I'm in is I don't really think that people know all the assets that we have, and I have to go back to that again. When you look at UF Health, when you look at UF North, the VA, like just helping people navigate through a preventative health aspect, and then we have a lot of food deserts, and lack of nutrition is also a part of health. So just small little things, developing those co-ops, and I'm being educated on this as well, Jim. Mm-hmm. And what I mean by a co-op is you shouldn't have to go 10 to 15 minutes to get fresh groceries, right? And I will give a plug to JTA, because JTA with our public transportation does have what they call the door-to-store program, and a lot of our seniors are able to get back and forth to grocery stores and food deserts.
Good plan, yeah.
But for those who want to be able to get there on their own to the neighborhood store, co-ops would be one way that we could make that happen. But it's not just government again. It's going to take those relationships. So you may not get 5 types of ketchup or 5 types of mustard. Yeah. You may get 2. Okay. Hunts and Heinz, you know what I mean? Okay.
But sometimes that's better. Less choices to make. And everything's relative. If you got one to choose from, well, you're probably going to be okay with it, or 2.
Yes.
It's better than none.
And then another thing I want to pull up or bring about is we got to change the storytelling of our city. The worst critics of our city are the ones who are in our city. Mm-hmm. When people come to Jacksonville, they don't have a clue what's going on inside of Jacksonville.
Sometimes the worst critics is our own television news stations. They're just pumping out bad information, negative information, and who's watching it? You can be 300 miles out of the city and watch our news, or get it online, and you might be, oh, man, I'm staying at Jacksonville tonight. I'm going to pass right on through because the news keeps talking about the murder rate here or whatever. So,
and we got to highlight what's being done,
the good
right.
stuff, yeah.
And we shift that story, we shift that narrative, and I really believe that we're going to see some significant positive change
with the right people getting elected. That's why people got to pay attention to who's running. That's why we have guys like you on, because we want people to know who you are, good or bad. Yes. Because people need to get an education before they go on there and just vote all D or all R, just vote party, because we don't have to bring up your party, but I typically do, your affiliation. When it's an office that's related, it's considered a partisan, not a party, position, a seat that's considered to be partisan.
Yeah, I'm a registered Democrat.
Okay.
And like I said, my platform starts with safer communities. That's where it starts.
Okay.
It starts with safer communities, and this is the last thing I'm going to put in there pertaining to when I survey my elders and the moms and some of our communities on the north side, they say they don't send their children to the parks because they're sad. Sex, alcohol, and drugs. Mm-hmm. So now the children are at home all day with mom, mm-hmm. and mom is home all day with the children. Mm-hmm. So
it's gonna be tense.
It's going to be chaos. Yeah. So like everything is heightened,
right?
And
stress elevated. Yeah.
And so when you talk to the youth, like they're like, listen, I'm dealing with anxiety. Like I said, in COVID,
mom and I aren't getting along.
Yeah,
which is not good.
Yeah.
So I'm going to get out of the house and go hang with my buddies, and then that's kind of might start a trend of where. And yeah, COVID was a great experiment. And how well being at home all day long with your own people doesn't always work so good.
Yes,
because it can. I mean, everybody's gotta have quality time and space, and you can't just be stuck in the house all day with mom or your kids, because someone's going to go nuts. It's going to go off the rails. So stay there. Let's circle back because we never really finished talking about who you are and your background, because you had some pretty interesting stuff in your bio. Tell us a little bit more about it.
All right. Well, for those of you that
are you a pastor?
Yes.
Okay. Are you a reverend?
Yes.
Okay. So I was going to ask you before we started this if I should introduce you as Reverend Nahshon Nix.
And like I said, that would have been up to your discretion.
You have a theological degree.
Yes.
A degree in theology. Right?
Yes. I have degrees in theology, as well as education and leadership and management. I'm a lifelong learner. I'm also a doctoral student at New York Theological Seminary. And basically, my demonstration project is to show how martial arts and biblical principles help youth with social, emotional, academic learning. So,
and give us that martial arts back. I'm a martial artist for 30 years, so that was of special interest to me. So give us some of your martial arts background.
Well, all right, now I have fought in a cage. For those of you that have Amazon Prime, I'm in a movie documentary called Fight Church. It's about pastors that do cage fighting. And
interesting mix.
Yes.
I haven't seen that before.
Yes, and they didn't either. I thought it was a joke. So they're like, listen, because the same producers that did Fight Church, they also did Saving Face, about women in the Middle East when they wanted a divorce from their husbands would pour battery acid on their face.
So it would be attractive to anybody else.
Yeah, and I'm totally against that. But like they were saying, listen, we're not trying to make you look bad. We want to hear your story, and we want to share your story with the world. And that movie actually won numerous film festivals. And I got a chance to kind of tell my story because I believe we all deal with a level of resistance. We all deal with affirmations, and with those affirmations, I believe it. Abraham Maslow talks about hierarchy of self and basic needs, and there's a heightened level of awareness. And my goal is through martial arts is I want men and boys who have a warrior ethos
to have a good outlet for it.
Good outlet.
Yeah.
And an awareness that the most powerful weapon that you possess is not necessarily your fists, your elbows, knees, but your words. And if you can use your words,
and the power of self-control.
Oh my goodness,
that's one.
That's the greatest. That's the greatest control. That's the greatest control. Right. Self-control is the greatest control. Yeah. Like I said, people want to talk about gun control.
Yeah, martial
self-control.
Yeah.
If we don't have self-control, it doesn't matter where the gun is at. They'll find it. It doesn't matter where the knife is at. Right. They'll find it. But
martial arts requires amazing self-discipline, and I can't say you always master self-discipline, but if you can really build your self-discipline, you know what I'm talking about. You can control yourself. You can control stuff that. Man, how old were you when you started?
5.
5.
Yeah.
So that's a perfect example of good idea to get those kids in those programs when they're young. And if it's not martial arts, maybe get them into sports, baseball, football, or something like that. But stay in there because it requires discipline. It makes that kid get up and go to class. I remember going to class going, I didn't start till I was in my 20s, but I was like, I'd have a long day at work, and I'm like, I'd plop down on the couch, and class started at 7. I was like, man, I'd have a suit on. Tie's all undone. I'm like, man, I really don't want to go to class. I had to go three days a week. Make yourself get up, get off the couch, get in the car, and go down there, come home at 9:30, all sweaty and tired, going, man, I sure am glad I went to class. I sure feel good about it. I'm sure glad I made myself get up and go. So you know what I'm talking about.
Yes.
And that self-discipline carried on with me for years. I'm sure you too, and many other people we know that have committed to a discipline like that.
And not like
it goes in all aspects of your life.
Correct. And now I will say this too. In addition to self-control and awareness, I would have to go into the respect aspect.
Learned a lot of respect from that
because I had to really. I work with some of our most severe students when it comes to like EBD, emotionally behavior disorder, ODD, oppositional defiant disorder. Like then you got like the ADDs and the ADHDs, but just getting them to understand, like, you could be opposition or defiant, but are you still getting the outcome that you desire? And let's work through this. And just creating that safe space that, you know what, I'm not getting what I want. Can you please teach me how to get out of this? You know? And that's kind of how I got my break, because I'm also a contractor for Duval County Public Schools. So I can go in and teach martial arts during school. I'm also a contractor for KIP. So I was able to teach at KIP during school before the pandemic, and just really help build like a sense of self-determination and community with their classmates, because if they lost, a bishop actually challenged me. He said, Nix, these kids see you winning. That's not their problem. They don't know how to lose. Mm-hmm. And Bishop James Brent.
Got to be able to be a good loser and a good sport. And sometimes that has to be taught.
Yeah.
You got to be taught how to be a good sport, because you don't always win. Correct. And still maintain respect for the person that just beat you. And it may be in other types of things in life, not just a competition, not a martial arts competition, but it teaches you that. Yeah. When I saw that you had that background, I was like, I can see why this guy's got it together the way he does, based on your bio that I read, and now sitting here talking to you.
Yes, thank you. And like I said, these little intangibles, I think it makes me more unique as a candidate for City Council District 7, because my elders, they feel like they can communicate to me. Our youth feel like they can communicate with me. I'm 40, and I believe I'm young enough to reach the youth, and I'm old enough to connect
right in the middle.
So I feel like I'm one of the perfect candidates to be able to bridge that gap to really help move our city forward, you know. And like that, I just feel like that's something unique. And like I said, and if it wasn't for the grace of God on my life, I really can't say I know how I got here, you know. So I'm very humbled. I'm very thankful. And I met some great folks along this journey, you know. And I also
probably learned a lot from them.
Yes.
Had probably had a strong influence on whatever direction you went in. People who you're like now.
Yeah. And
you got the opportunity to do the same thing and give it back.
Yes. And so with the martial arts, I'm also the owner of Team Nitro MMA LLC. So I know that throughout the pandemic, there's a lot of businesses that couldn't make those pivots to online and virtual and Zoom. Like, they actually needed that brick and mortar, and due to federal guidelines, state guidelines, local guidelines, kind of understanding this virus, I feel like I can help spark some dreams of some folks that may have lost that unction to want to get that small business going, or they're like right on the cusp of being great. And
a little boost.
This little boost, and just finding creative ways to help leverage things that are significant to our city. And I was at a food truck yesterday, Cattleman's barbecue right outside of Arlington, off of Atlantic, I think it is. And I was talking to Matt and Mike, and they were like, my father started Cattleman's. And like that legacy, like so when you come to Jacksonville, this Duval right here, Cattleman's is Duval, you know, like, you know, they're not, but I'm just using that as a, like, when you come to Duval, like, yes, we want you to go to major restaurants and retail, but we also want you to experience some of these legacy small businesses that's been getting it from the grit, getting it from the muscle.
Been here a long time. Cattleman's been here a long time.
And, you know, we want to get behind our local businesses. And Lord knows I cry every time I go down Main Street and Junior's done burned up on me. Forgive me for my grammar. I
even know that name.
Yeah. But please forgive me for my grammar. But like I said, I miss Junior's. But like I said, those are like legacy
businesses.
Businesses.
Well, you know, COVID wiped out a lot of those, and they could never survive. They couldn't come back after that. And some of those people were already struggling or marginal in the business. or they were at an age where they're like, well, if I'm going to retire, this is it, because this is time for me to, I'm not ready. You almost have to start back over again after the COVID thing shut down so many restaurants and businesses. So a lot of people do need a leg up and assistance getting kind of restarted and getting their businesses back up and running again.
Yes.
And hopefully we won't have another shutdown like we did, in 2020, that we saw so many people go out of business.
Yeah, and I'm in agreement. And just helping folks navigate through city processes is something that's very important to me. Through the JSEP.
That can be a nightmare.
Yes.
Yeah.
JSEP, code enforcement, fire department, and then
it can be discouraging. Once you start the process and you get into it about a month or so, you go, man, I'm not doing this. This is so much red tape. So, yeah, helping people navigate through that process is a big deal. Yeah. And that's the perfect district to do it in, right? Because everybody they've got to navigate through is in that district.
And I want to be an advocate to the little guy. I'm a little guy.
Yeah.
I like I said, between faith, my personal convictions, and just a little bit of success that I've been able to break daylight in. I don't want to be an anomaly. I want us to kind of really push.
Yeah, I want to see more like you, not be the exception or unusual, but kind of the norm.
Yes.
Yeah, I agree, man. But it's going to take guys like you to kind of go back in those communities that you're talking about and help give people a hand up and help them, and get them on those paths, like some of the programs you're talking about. And I'm a registered Republican, but I'm not hardcore. I'm not for anybody that's hard right or left. I think one extreme or the other is not good. Kind of in the middle, but I'd vote for you.
All right,
and I don't have to be Democrat just because of what you've said and what you intend to do, and you're not all about just giving people entitlements and handouts so they all just sit home and get nowhere. It's what we need. It's what people need.
Yes, and these type of platforms I'm very appreciative to, because typically if you go to a church you get 2 minutes.
Yeah.
And then certain occasions they let you say your name and what you're running for, then you pass the mic. Yeah. So I'm very, very appreciative to this for this opportunity. And one more thing I want to pull up is pertaining to my platform is growth and development. Downtown Jacksonville has so much potential, and JTA is doing phenomenal. When you look at what they call set-asides, disadvantaged businesses.
Downtown Jacksonville is full of vacant lots and closed up, boarded up old buildings. Yes. There's a lot of development that can occur down there.
And I would love to see how we can help our local contractors, electricians, plumbers, get in on the big game and create some generational wealth. And just making sure, like I said, they can navigate, because sometimes it can be a little deterrent if you don't know how to navigate through that process. And I want them to know that there's somebody that's running to make this procedure as open and as transparent as possible, so that way we could take care of home first. We could take care of the first coast first.
It's a good strategy, good philosophy. Yeah, if you don't take care of home first, then that's kind of where the whole problems originate from, right there. So take care of it, home, Jacksonville. What, you got any aspirations after city council, you think? What's your long-term plan?
All right, so right now,
are you at just one step at a time plan?
One step at a time. Let's show proof of success, proof of work, and then we can always take it from there.
Right. The problem is people get out there and they have this platform, they tell everybody what they're going to do, and they get in an office and it doesn't happen. So that's where that's the proof. Mm-hmm. Go out there and do what you say you're going to do. Those are the I'll call you a politician, because you can become one if you get on city council. Those are the people that get recognized, stand out, get the good reputations. Man, he went in there and did exactly what he said he was going to do. And he's still doing it, and he's passionate about it. So, then who knows what may come after that.
Right. But my heart is here.
Right.
My heart.
So your heart's here. Yeah.
My heart
That's
is.
what I was kind of thinking.
Yeah, I'm like I said, you don't understand. When I'm in D.C., I'm shouting Duval. When I'm in Austin, I'm shouting Duval. When I'm in the Cuse up north in New York, I'm shouting Duval. If I'm down in Miami, I'm shouting Duval. Like I don't know. I'm so Duval right now. So this is like and I want
we need
to share.
We need some cheerleaders.
I want to share our story, and I want to heighten our story to where this is destination Duval. Like, man, we about to go to Miami. Nope. There's a spot over there on the East Coast, and when you come into Florida and
you don't have to pass on through.
You don't have to pass. So you ready for this? I was at, I think it's called Dapper D's. It's a cigar lounge on the north side of Jacksonville. And I met a gentleman that lived in like Alma, Georgia. He said I could have ordered these cigars online, but I was in St. Mary's. And I said, I ain't but 25 minutes away. I might as well just drive. So, like, there's certain, you'd be surprised what that one little thing is, but people are willing to drive up to an hour just for something that we have here.
To
and
stay
we ride
local.
by.
To stay local.
Yeah, it's like I said. So I mean, I'm a soul food guy, so I love the cookbook. I love Annie Lee's Bakery. Like, these are local businesses that I can sit there and get fat. I enjoy the local experience. And then you get to meet your neighbors.
Yeah.
While you're breaking bread.
Yeah. It's very community oriented.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's important.
Yeah.
Well, you got anything else you want to tell us about you, yourself, your campaign platform, or anything?
Okay, if you get elected, what's like the first goal?
What's on your priority list?
Yeah.
All right. I gotta work with intervention and prevention. I was reading about Judge Mike Khalil with his ERM. It's like an effective response matrix for youth who are juvenile delinquent, and the goal is before they become serial offenders, that we can kind of get those relationships built before they become career criminals, basically.
Oh yeah, it's critical. Got to capture them, in elementary school.
Yeah, and if there's a way that we can work to get that going, I want to reduce the murder rate specifically within the districts that I serve. If we can lower that year over year by 10%, I know we're winning.
That's a big success.
That's a big success. That's one more family.
Agree with you.
Because it's, and like I said, I'm also a pastor. I've done these services for these individuals who weren't even a part of the altercation. They just happened to be in the wrong area from somebody else who was in the altercation, from a Nahshon Boss Man Gallon, who was a second grader at SP Livingston Elementary School, and a stray bullet actually took his life. So
it's need to happen.
So, like I say, I'm not telling you something that you don't know from the police force, but like I said, if we can go to more graduations and less funerals, we're winning.
Yeah. Well, it's all got to be community centered, man. That's kind of similar to a conversation we had with our last guest. But it's got to take the people that are willing to, once they kind of become successful, to not just leave that behind, but like, I'm going back in there. I'm going to kind of go back into the war zone and bring myself back and show them you can be me. You don't have to stay here and be like this. Get on that path. That's why I had brought up the martial arts earlier. Those are good programs to get kids into because it teaches them self-discipline and respect and things like that. That's a good starter program. Other than just sports, other than just baseball and football, and which everybody's into.
and working with, I'm gonna use this term, indigenous community, meaning folks that have been there for generations. I don't want to go in with a savior's complex. I would want to go in with the servant complex. And I think purpose-built community, Lift Jacks, they're doing a great work with working with the folks who actually live in that community to help make their communities better. And I think there's different models. I think with the Emerald Trail coming through the urban core, I think that's going to be it's going to be amazing. I train my MMA fighters up and down Pearl Street. Some people call it Pearl World. But going through Golf Fair up and down Pearl, and
it is a little different world over there.
And the thing is that but this is what a guy told me. He says when a community is clean, it gives the appearance of safety.
Yeah. And it's going to take years to do that, but it's going to take guys like you to do it. And it's going to take generations of guys like you to do it and other people to keep doing it. But at least you're focused on it.
Yes.
A lot of people, they start achieving success and they move on, man. They move on. You want to stay here. You want to stay in the community that you grew from and make it better. You're the kind of guy that, like I said, I would vote for.
And I need that vote, and I need that support, and I would love the support of your listening audience as well.
Well, you're going to be out there, and we'll let you know when this episode's available, and you can distribute it on your social media. We've got a pretty good podcast following. I mean, we've had tens upon thousands of downloads.
Yeah,
and we're getting a broader presence on YouTube, so you can actually see the show itself, but we don't push that much. We're more of a podcast, talk show. So, anything else you want to tell us before we close the show? Do you have any questions?
I'm good.
Yes. Like I said, my name is Nahshon Nix. I'm a Democrat running for City Council District 7 here in Jacksonville, Florida. The incumbent is running for another position, which makes this an open seat. More than likely, there will be a special election. We don't have a set date as of yet.
Okay.
But I need all the help that I can get and all the support that I can get. And if something I said aligns with their values, if they would please visit my website. Is it okay if I call it?
Yeah, no.
Yeah, no.
I was going to say,
go
ahead and give yourself a shout out now. Website, everything you got.
All right, it's vote, VOTE, Nix, NICKS, numeric 4, JAX.com.
So that's votenext4jax.com, and that's a number 4, not the FOUR.
Yes.
Yeah, votenext4jax.com. I like that. Easy to remember.
Easy to remember. And more than likely, if you're in District 7, you'll see me running up and down the sidewalk. I may be knocking on your door sometime soon just to get your feedback as to how we can make our communities better. What do you want to see?
Well, that's how you learn, because you said you're open to learning. Is just get feedback from people, man. That's all you need is ask questions. Tell us what you need. Tell me what you need to do a good job for you in Seat 7, District 7. That's what you need.
Yes.
People to talk to you.
Yes.
And you've got an outstanding social media presence and online presence. We looked at you before you came in, and somebody's done a really good job for you.
Thank you. And I got to give a shout out to Team Nix, my PR, campaign manager, campaign assistants. Everybody they're ready for tangible change and not just empty rhetoric. And the way that we're framing it is that you go from promise to production with policy, and policy is going to be key to getting stuff done.
Yeah,
and an educated citizenry. So, and as you said earlier in our dialogue, it's not a one man or one woman show. City council is 19 elected individuals, and if you would be so kind to please get to know the candidates, even though your party affiliation is very important, but what's the best for our city as a whole? And from the scriptures that I read, if it's good for the least of the people, then it's good for all of the people.
Yeah, well stated. Well stated. I think that's a good note to close on.
That's a great note.
So you guys just heard, can I call you Reverend?
You can call me Reverend.
Reverend Nahshon Nix, also an MMA fighter and martial artist. And you heard him. And so do your research on this guy some more. Look him up. Study him. Don't vote party necessarily. Vote because of what you just heard, what this guy's willing to do, this passion that he's got for his community. It sounds like it runs really deep.
Yes, yes.
Yeah. Well, hey, we appreciate having you on, Reverend.
Thank you, thank you, Crawfish, thank you, Jim, and Larry, wherever you may be, thank you as well.
I think he's getting the bikini wax.
Something like that.
I said that in the last show. He's going to beat me for that. You ought to, Larry's probably going to pummel me for that. Larry, I'm sorry, I was only kidding. All right, thanks for coming. That's it. That's a wrap for Real Jacks with Jim, Larry, who's not here, Crawfish, and our special guest, Reverend Nahshon Nix.
Thank you.
Candidate for District 7.
Right here in Duval.
Okay. Thanks for watching. Thanks for listening. We'll see you next time.